we feature the prolific and award-winning Israeli filmmaker Dan Wolman. He's been described as a unique and brave poet of cinema. He's received 3 Lifetime Achievement Awards. I met Dan a couple of years ago and was spellbound by the kind of stories he weaves. I'm delighted that he's joining us today from Ramat Gan, Israel.
I'm Dan Wolman, and I'm happy to be on the spotlight with Sandhya.
Dan, you've been making films for over 50 years now. And right from your very first film, The Dreamer, you've chosen a different path. Can you tell us what are the inspirations for your filmmaking and what are the topics that interest you?
You know, I guess one needs a psychiatrist or a psychologist to find the reason why a young man of 25, 26, when I made my first feature film, wants to make a film dealing with old people. And a few of my films, my early films especially, dealt with old people. And I guess it had to do something with the fact that I didn't feel comfortable with people my own age. And there is something which is mysterious about this, and I cannot, put it in words. But I think also in my films, there is something about paying attention and caring. People that, where there's no light. There were no other feature films dealt with old people in my country, at least at that time. I think it was the first feature film dealing with old people in Israel ever. I don't know, again, it has to do, I guess, with something that you feel you care for something that I'm not mainstream. I'm not going for the subject. Everybody's saying, okay, let's make money. We'll do something, a comedy or something like that. And I'm trying to do something that I feel that belongs to me, that I feel that I belong to it. And I really belong somehow to the margins and not to the center. You know, again, when you speak about, again, I cannot pinpoint and say here, this is a place where I get an idea. Sometimes, I read a book and there is something there and I say, wow, this is something that I could do in this other media, in this film media, and I can touch people. I can, through my filters, show a very interesting angle about it. But many of the personal films come from, I guess, things that, like other people, relationship with parents, family, etc.
So one of the central themes of your films, though they're all of different topics, is the conflict that an individual has with society. What have you analyzed, having made films dealing with these topics? What do you think is the root cause for an individual's conflict with society?
In my country, because we are a country that has always been a country in siege. We were surrounded by enemies. And there was this thing, the militaristic thing was always something that everybody valued. People know exactly their duties and they have to fight for something. So here I have individuals who are faced with this thing where everybody wants them to be a part of the norm, to be exactly like everyone else and to fight like everyone else. But they have their own things. So sometimes it causes friction. I'm interested again in the individual who is not like everyone else, somebody who is different. My films are about these kinds of people, so it could be a woman who is a prostitute, it could be a gay person, it could be old person, it could be a woman, like let's say in a place where a woman is not respected or doesn't get the attention that she should get, and the possibilities are not open for her. So I'm interested in people like that who are weak and that maybe I can do something for them.
I met you at the screening of an Israeli love story, and that brings together, the confluence of love and politics. And I felt like how Israel, as a newly created country, and I have seen films in the past when India was a newly liberated country. There is a sense of idealism and sacrifice that drove the people at that time. But this fades over a period of time. And then you see a whole lot of things like corruption and decadence, and there is no optimism anymore amongst the people. You explored such themes in your films, and why do you think this happens?
First of all, I think that there is a tendency to think that things have changed for the worse, and we speak about corruption now, etc. But I used to speak to my father, and my father used to say to me, I'm telling you, things were much worse before. And he said, like, you compare today, and I speak about, and he says, think about, let's say, when India got its independence in Israel for 1947, 1948. In 1945 was the end of the Nazi era, where so many people killed, taken by trains to concentration camps and gassed. Can you compare it to today? It was much worse. And my father says that when I speak about corruption, people are this, he said that even during the war in Israel, there were people who were selling goods. They would put them for another day so they could sell them for more money. So I'm not sure that today is, because we have a lot of advantages today. Because, when you think about the fact that so many things could be hidden in previous days, and now that everybody has a cell phone and so on, we can actually document and we can actually show a lot of things that were wrong and like that. So I'm just saying that one has to take it in, proportion and in with a perspective. Here, like in an Israeli love story in the film, you have a story of ideal love, idealist, and at the same time war and death. Of course you find it also in Indian cinema.
That's true. Another strong theme that underlies all your films is family, especially the nuclear family. Since you've been examining this topic in several films, have you seen how families have changed, how relationships have changed, and do you have any comment about that?
In my country, there is like a tremendous change for the better, in the sense that I think there is more tolerance now to all kinds of families, to combined families. And, like single women, in many in my country, many single women decide they don't want to get married and they still want to have a child. So, they can do this. And you have, again, like with a gay subject, you have it, like in my, when my granddaughter is going to her kindergarten, she, in her same class, there are, two women who are gay and who have their own child, or two men who have their own children. It's very, very common now. So I'm speaking about this, particular thing, which is more, and I think that, so this is one thing. And I think also, the whole theme of, Me Too, a problem of violence at home, and so on. I think that now there is much more, let's say a woman who is beaten by her husband can hear other women on television, on radio, and so on, and I think now she will find it easier to go to the police or. So I think that I'm saying, it was before. It was like a family would send the husband somewhere to a faraway country to make money and so on, and it would take 9 months before he comes back. And today, with airplanes and so on, you have people who live in a certain country and they just go for 3 days to England and they come back. And I think that there are lots of things which have improved.
It's. I'm going to ask a question that might seem a little unfair. Of all the many films that you've made, which would you choose as your favorite film?
It's a question that I've been asked before many times. It's not easy because, it's like parents. Usually the parents like the films that the critics hate, because you say, okay, this is the one who was sick all the time. And, I was more closer to him. But I think that, obviously I made some films as a gun for hire, like producer came to me and said, Dan, we want you to make a film in Italy, or we want to make a film in Sweden, or, here and make some comedy. And I made a comedy which was very successful here. Again, so, but, I like it. It's also my child, though someone else wrote the screenplay. There was another producer. But, obviously there are some things which are very much my own, very personal. So I think my film, The Dreamer, my film Hide and Seek, and Ben's biography, these are films which are, I feel a bit closer to. Yes.
So you actually do many different kinds of films, right? You do commercial films, you do your very personal films, you do short films, you do documentaries, you're involved in theater. You
Yeah.
also write many of your screenplays. How do you make time for all this? Because I know that as a creative person, you have many projects going on simultaneously, and they'll all be at different stages of creation.
Yeah.
How do you segment
Yeah.
time, and mentally, how do you create space
Yes.
for it?
You know, first of all, it's over many, many years. So when you look at my day, I think that busy people have a lot of time. And, if you take me, I'm saying yesterday I was watching a soccer game on television for, close to 2 hours. And I still have time, to be with the family, to this and so on. Um, the one thing is that when I do work, I don't, like some people say, okay, I need an intermission. So in the intermission for me is to go to something else. I think it's nice that I can, be involved with music and maybe write a theme for an idea for a song. And at the same time, suddenly I see something and say, wow, that's a nice short story. But still, I'm telling you, like Saturday, we went all the family to a forest where, we were there for 3 4 hours, and I have a lot of time. Maybe I read less than I would like to, but and I try not to, like some people bury themselves and watch a series on television. A lot of television series. It's something that I don't do. Like sometimes there is a series that I see, and then I try always to limit myself, because I think that life is more important than the life given to you on the screen. And I try to to that the life will have a real meaning for me, not just to live other people's lives.
Here's a message from our sponsors. And don't go away. After the break, I'll be talking to Dan Wolman about his connection with India.
The Windflower Resorts and Spa. Come, take advantage.
Dan, I've heard in the past, I've heard you say that, India fascinates you and you feel it's very much a part of you. Tell us about the film that you're making, which is partly set in India. I think it's called My Father's Secret. So, can you tell us about it, and how you got the idea? At what stage is it at? And where did you get the story? Who's done the screenplay?
A friend of mine told me a story, a true story. And the friend told me that he, as a child, his father used to go abroad for business. And then when he was a bit older, he found out through his mother that actually his father, he had these problems of depression. And then when in periods where he would be, he was a maniac depressive. I don't know how you say it in English. I think that's the way you say it. What happened was that when he was depressed, his mother used to protect him from people that he owed money to or whatever. And she would say that he is abroad. But actually he was at some aunt's house. He was in some place in a village. And the boy thought his father was abroad, and she would tell him, listen, your father said this and that. So I wanted to I was very moved by this story, because only later in his life, he found out that actually his father was in the same place and he was not abroad. So, and at the same time, there was another story here very much involved. And I meet a lot of Indians who are in Israel working and taking care of old people, cleaning, or doing all kinds of jobs. We have a lot of people from India and from Sri Lanka and the Philippines, etc. And I thought of a friendship between this boy, that his father suddenly is abroad. That's what he thinks. Actually, it's not true. It's something that he discovers through the film, that his father is actually at home, not far away from home, but has these terrible depressions. And this young man, he befriends a woman from next door. There's an Indian woman who takes care of an old couple, and the old couple die. And the son of the old couple tells the Indian woman that she's fired. She has to go. And he doesn't want to pay her. And she befriends this boy, okay? And the boy tries to help her also because the son of the old couple doesn't want to pay her what he owes her. And she's sent to India. But there is a friendship. So there's a story of friendship between this boy and this lady from India. And at the end of the story, the boy goes to India with his brother. So there is some sort of a connection. So there's a little part shot in India, and most of the film is shot in Israel. What stage is the film at? You know, the corona ruined everything. So I went to Jharkhand where they offered me some incentives and they liked the story. And then I was trying to raise money here, but then, traveling was not permitted, etc. And I didn't need a lot of money, with very little money, I could do the film. But then, so it was canceled. And I was negotiating with actresses, with producers, but it fell through. And, with me, I have to, in order for me to wake up in the morning with I have to have a feeling that there is an aim, that I have to do something. So, I was looking around, and then I read this book by Amos Oz, the famous Israeli author who died last year. And the book is a very beautiful book. It's called in English Judas. And I said, okay, I'm going to try to acquire the rights for that book, which I did. And this is the film that I'm embarking on now. I'm trying to raise money to make it. And it's a very simple story. It takes place in Jerusalem.
So I see that a lot of films, especially on the streaming platforms, have been tweaked so they can be made with very few resources and they can be made faster. And especially, I think anthologies of short films have become very popular. Do you see yourself adopting these techniques?
The question of faster is not right, because in some of my films, I dare and I start shooting the film before I have the money to finish them. And so there have been some feature films, regular films, long films, where I said, okay, I have an idea. I'm not going to wait now for a few years and have producers help me. I have $500. I'm going to shoot 3 days. So I got the actors and so on. And I said to them, try not to cut your hair. Try not to change the way you look for a while. I speak, to the actress, and the people. And I say to them, we're going to shoot 1 day every month, and so this way, some of my films dragged for 3 years or 5 years till I finished them. And but the film, ended up competing with other films which were made for millions of dollars in the most famous festivals in the world. And so I'm just trying to all the time be busy. Some of the films I told you I made for other producers were nice budget films. It's my own films. Sometimes I'm telling producers my ideas and they say it's not going to make money. This guy's making films about old people, about death. So I'm fighting to do my own thing.
Dan,
Yes.
Since you come to India quite often and you're quite familiar with the Indian film industry, can I ask you which of the Indian filmmakers that you're impressed by, and are there any particular films or actors whom you like?
First of all, I see a lot of Indian films and I like Bollywood, but because I'm invited to be on the jury of many Indian film festivals, and I was in Lucknow and in Kochi and of course, at Trivandrum, a lot of cities, Kolhapur, I can name 20 cities where I was involved as this. I see a lot of the non-commercial Indian cinema, the films which are very personal, and usually they don't get to the public. And I feel bad for the distributors of Indian cinema that there's actually no distribution sometimes for art films. So I'm saying that I don't want to mention names of filmmakers because, again, I admire the big industry, the vibrant, Bollywood, the great Bollywood film, and I go to cinemas in India, which is a lot of fun. But I'm saying that there is, it's a pity, I think, that, again, who am I to criticize? I'm, again, a foreigner. But that, like on television, for example, on Indian television, there is no, like in my country, they force the Israeli television channels that they should help Israeli cinema. So they say you have to invest. The television has to invest. I think it's from money that comes from commercials. They have to invest in arts films, which are more experimental, which are unusual. And so they have to invest, let's say, in 2, 3 features each channel every year. And this gives, I'm saying that in India, it's very rare that you see, art films, because everything is for rating, for money, something that will go with commercials. But I think that it would have helped, or it would help if such a thing would be created.
Do you see any similarities at all between Indian society and Israeli society and the way it's depicted in cinema?
There is something, and again, you speak about, it's very dangerous because you speak about mentalities of countries. And India is not one country. India is 1,000 countries. And, people in, I don't know, down south and people in the north are very different. People who live in the Himalaya and people who live by the sea. And they have different foods and they have different mentalities. So it's very difficult to say. But I'm saying that there is something, and we don't know what it is, that Israelis feel very comfortable when they come to India. And I think there is something about the personality. I think when Indians come to Israel also, they feel something, that there is something that, let's say, I don't want to insult other countries and mention other countries where they feel uncomfortable. But I think that there is something which is mysterious, and it's very interesting because in Israel, many young people and also people my age finishing the army or something like that would say, okay, I'm going to India, and it strengthens them. And there's very nice friendships that develop between the people from these two countries. I don't know if cinema, one can speak about something which is similar.
All right. On that note, thank you, Dan, for making time to be in this show. And I really appreciate your insights into filmmaking and into pursuing your passion.
Thank you very much. I thank you. And I'm very grateful for this opportunity to speak to someone in India. If, unfortunately, because of the corona, I cannot go there, but at least see you, and you are there. Okay, thanks.
And to our viewers, I hope you enjoyed watching this episode of Spotlight with Sandhya. We look forward to reading your comments. You can also hear this interview as a podcast on Spotify. Until I'm back again with another interesting guest, take care and bye-bye.
Flower Resorts in Spa. Come, take advantage.